Good morning, Leo Dad here. Today we're going to talk about tyres. Now, why do we need to talk about tyres? Well, tyres are actually one of the most important things on the vehicle because they contact your vehicle to the road. And if you don't have this, the rest of the vehicle is completely useless because you just can't use it. So, what's the main things we need to know about tyres? Let's quickly go through the makeup of a tyre and damages and things like that can happen and other such things. So, the tyre has several parts. You've got the sidewall, which is the side here, and then you've got the tread. You can have tyres that are completely new, or you can have tyres that are called remoulds. Now, a remould uses the original carcass, which is the sidewall bit, and a worn out tyre. And they actually vulcanise a whole new tread around the tyre. They actually stretch it on and stick it on. So if you see lorry tyres on the motorway, you know, just a ring, the outside, that is the remould part of the tyre, the top bits come off. That's quite common with lorries. So basically tyres are made up of fibres and sometimes wire with rubber moulded around it. So that's the makeup of a tyre. How do I tell the size of a tyre? Well, that's quite easy because it's actually written on the tyre. If you look at the sidewall around here, there'll be numbers and letters around the side. You'll get the make of the tyre. For example, this one is a general grabber tyre, and the size on it is 195, which is the width. So it's 195mm wide on the tread. It's the aspect ratio is this height bit here between the tread and the rim. That's at 80. And the rim size, the R is the rim size. So this has got 15-inch rims. So that's the basic makeup of the tyre and what they're made of. So what do I need to know about inflating a tyre? Well, inflating a tyre is important. It has to be the correct pressure. If your tyre is not the correct pressure, you're going to get two problems. If it's underinflated, the centre of the tyre gets pushed in, and that wears the outside of the tyre. So you end up with both these flat bits here and here. If the tyre is overinflated, the middle kind of sticks out and you end up wearing the middle. So you can either end up with a bald middle or a bald inside and outside. So it's important to get the correct pressure, and you will find the correct pressures usually behind the fuel filler cap or in the handbook in the car. And it also depends on how many people and what load you're carrying as to what the pressure is. They vary by 5, 10 psi. So what else do we need to know about tyres? Well, tread depth. It's important that you've got a decent tread depth. Now, tyres designed in wet weather, for example, to shed water. If your tyre can't shed water, you over 60 miles an hour you will aquaplane, and that is basically means you skim over the surface of the water instead of through it. And that's basically like driving on ice. You'll have an accident. You'll hit the puddle, skim over the top of it, won't be able to steer, and have an accident. So it's important that you have a decent tread depth. And you can get tread depth tools which you put in there to measure the tread. This has got loads. This has got like 8 or 9 mil of tread in this one. I had to replace these because I had virtually none left. I think you can use something like a 20p. If you look it up, you can put a coin in the tread and that will tell you roughly how much. I think it's a 20p. You put a coin in it, it'll tell you roughly how many millimeters you've got left. So another thing about tyres is different tyres have different ratings as well. So you get a speed rating and you get a weight rating. So this van needs to have, because it's bigger than a car, needs to have commercially rated tyres on it, which are basically they'll take a higher weight. Car tyres need to be a higher speed rating because they tend to go faster. But these are all things when you go to a tyre shop they will recommend what you need. So, repairs. What can I get repaired on my tyre? Quite often, nowadays with potholes and you get lots of punctures. So what can I repair? Well, a tyre shop will punch it. If there's a nail gun in your tyre in this area, the middle of the tread, they can plug it. They'll put a plug in there. Anything on the outer edge here, anything in the sidewall, that's a massive no in this country, and they will condemn the tyre. So don't be annoyed if you go into a tyre place and you've got a hole out here somewhere, a hole here. They will not replace it. Well, sorry, they will not repair it. They will say you need this replaced. And it's basically due to insurance purposes. If they repair a tyre out here and you have a massive accident, that's a problem. That's a problem for them. So, also, how do you balance a tyre? What's balancing? Well, balancing is a method of stopping your steering wheel shaking. You've probably all driven a car and the wheel's going like this, and you're like, oh wow, what's going on? And often, tyres are not an exact art when it comes to moulding. They can vary in weights, they're not equal all the way around. So they'll use tyre weights. They'll put a tyre weight either on the rim or on the back side. They either stick on or they attach to the rim. So they'll take the wheel off, put it on a machine, spin it. The machine will tell them where where some weights need putting. They'll add some weights on, and that will balance out the tyre so it spins. It doesn't vibrate and cause a problem when you're driving. Another problem I've come across in the past is tyre delamination from hitting potholes, which I'd say is fairly important nowadays because there's loads of potholes, isn't there? And what can happen is because the tyre's made up of layers, the actual tyre can delaminate inside, and air can get in where it shouldn't do. And you might end up with like an egg on the outside of the tyre, or even worse, an egg on the inside of a tyre. Now I've had this. I had a Discovery and I was bashing up and down forest roads doing my job, and then I broke down one day and I got put on a recovery lorry. And when I went on the lorry, the guy was like, wow, you've got a seriously bad tyre here. And I went, no, I haven't. So I had a look underneath, and there was a big egg on the inside of my tyre where I'd been hitting potholes. The tyre had got all delaminated and filled a big egg, and it was about ready to pop. It was huge. So it's always good, every month or so, just have a look. Go and look on the inside of your tyres and go, oh yeah, there's nothing there. And that's well worth looking. So look for any kind of odd bulges on the inside or outside of tyres, because that basically means that the tyre is going to have a problem. There's going to be a failure of that tyre. You want to keep an eye on that. So tyres are actually one of the most important bit of the vehicle, and it's one of those things that a lot of people never ever check. But you can be somebody that goes around your tyre, look at the outside, look at the inside, look at the tread, give it a once over, check the tyre pressure, and I'll show you how to do that next. Right, so how do I inflate a tyre? Well, this is nice and simple. Firstly, you're going to need a compressor. So you're likely going to be at a garage. And the garages have compressors where you put money in, you can set the pressure digitally and then fill it up. I've got my own little compressor in the van. We'll talk about what you're going to put in the tyres after this. But it's quite simple, this. Basically, you'll have a little dust cap on here, little plastic cap. That's basically to stop all the rubbish and things getting in your valve. And then all you do, you'll get your tyre pressure gauge. It has a pressure here. You put that onto there, and you'll hear it. Basically, there you go. You hear my compressor kick in there. There you go. And you hold it until it's at the right pressure. And do the same with all of them. Then put your little plastic cap, put that back on. That's you done. So what are you actually putting in your tyres? Well, the simple answer is you're putting air in it. You're taking air from outside, pressurising it, squashing it, and then forcing it into your tyre. Now, some agricultural machinery, tractors, some forestry machines, they have water in their tyres as well. So they'll put water in the bottom of the tyre in order to hold the vehicle down a bit, give it some more weight, more traction. Don't do that on cars normally because at high speed it causes unbalance in the tyre. So, how do we compress air? Well, I know a lot about this. I used to sell compressors. I used to sell them generally for milking parlours, for pushing milk through and milking cows. So big compressors. But you don't need big compressors for pumping tyres up. So this is a compressor. This actually came out of a mountain rescue Unimog locally. And all it is a motor and a pump. Then you've got a tank back here. Now that is the suspension tank out of an Audi or something that's got air suspension, just for a small reservoir. So the motor turns the pump, squashes the air, forces it out into here, so you've got a pressurised container full of air. Average tyre pressures are they can be between 30 to 60 psi. It all depends on the vehicle. This compressor never had a pressure switch. And what's a pressure switch? Now, a pressure switch is something that turns the compressor on and off, otherwise it keeps running and keeps running until something goes bang or it stops. So I added a pressure switch on so it goes on and off when I need it. Some things like racing cars, for example, they actually use like inert gases like nitrogen or whatever in their tyres. Why is that? Why would you use that? Well, that's because it doesn't get affected by heat. So as it heats up, the air in your tyres will expand, increase the pressure. So you'll find that in cold weather, your tyres, or your tyre pressure gauge on the car, because all modern ones seem to have a tyre pressure thing nowadays, that'll tell you the tyres are flat because the air temperature is reduced, and so the pressure in your tyre reduces in cold weather. So there we go. That's basically all about tyres. A very small amount about compressed air, what's in your tyres, and how to look after them.